Last week, I interviewed 4 banks for a new business I'm setting up to see what they could offer. Most failed the interview, including one where I've been a customer for over 20 years, and only one was customer-centric. And the bank that got it right was not who I expected. Hi, I'm Allison, and if you're new here, I work with leadership teams and boards on customer equity, AI, and value creation. But today I'm not talking about someone else's customer, I'm talking about being one. Here's what happened. My husband and I are setting up accounts for a new real estate investment business. It's not overly complicated, but there are a few pieces. And I decided to do something that I've never done, which is to interview the banks before choosing one. I prepared 2 categories of questions. First were the functional questions. Questions about products and fees and rates and minimums, all the typical stuff that you might normally ask a bank. The other were strategic questions. How will your bank help us grow? I interviewed 2 national banks first, Chase and Wells Fargo, and then 2 local banks, Western Alliance and Nevada State Bank. First up was Wells Fargo because they already have all of our accounts. We've been a customer for 20 plus years through multiple businesses, and I've seen personally the rep's computer screen that flags us as a high value customer. In the past, we met with a dedicated account manager named David, but this time it took us 3 days to get an in-person meeting, and David's associate, Alma, called us twice, confirming we were coming, digging into what I wanted to discuss. But when we walked in, it wasn't David, it was Alma, and despite the calls and the 3 days of lead time, she had not looked at our accounts. She really didn't know us. She pulled up the Wells Fargo website and shared the screen and literally read to me the product descriptions from the website. Then when I asked strategic questions to understand how the bank could support our growth, she didn't have those details either. And instead she said, well, that's handled at the corporate level, or we can't really do anything until you've been in business for 2 years. So 20 years as a customer with prior business accounts, and we're basically a startup off the street. But they could offer us a line of credit or a corporate credit card. Those products, however, were just products. They weren't solutions shaped to us. So Wells Fargo was a no, sadly. Next up was Chase Bank, and this was smoother. Getting a meeting with them was pretty easy, and the representative, her name was Alondra, was generally impressive. She knew the intricate details of every product. She asked us the right qualifying questions and guided us to the right fit effortlessly. And my husband and I were like, hey, she's a professional. This sounds great. But when we got into the strategic partnership questions, the conversation stalled. She brought over a colleague from the brokerage side who offered to secure a loan backed by our own money, which kind of annoyed me because why could this same bank offer to lend 600% of revenues to companies in the PE world, but only 90% to companies like us? Yes, risk, I know, but it didn't seem like the bank was taking any risk, and that was their version of partnership. They had very few options to ladder up to our future growth. So Chase was a no as well. Now, I expected the big banks to product push, but I was hopeful that small institutions would be a little different. So our next interview was with Nevada State Bank. And here we met Franklin, who was friendly and knowledgeable and also guided us to the right products. But when we described our entity structures, he got concerned and he wanted to bring in his manager, Aurora. Fair enough. Except we had to wait another 3 business days until she was available. During that gap, I started to think, Nevada State's we do everything in branch, its personal positioning might be the right fit. But the follow-up meeting didn't go well. Again, although Aurora had days to prepare, she showed up empty-handed. Her strategic partnership suggestion was SBA loans, which is a good suggestion, but not for retail real estate investors. It's specifically not for us. And she told us that after that conversation that they were basically a very conservative bank and they preferred straight corporations where they could lend up to 50% of gross annual revenues capped at about 100K. Well, that wasn't going to work. So now we're 0 for 3. 0 strategic partners, and I thought, okay, we're going to just have to go back to the drawing board until I got a recommendation for a bank that I'd actually been avoiding. That's part 2. And trust me, what they said in the first 5 minutes changed everything.